Hi, I'm Vishwesh, and this is EchoSoft 5, my final project for CSY 7270 game development course. So, here you are an young archaeology, you are a young archaeologist exploring old ancient temples, and you are in a quest of fulfilling your grandfather's dream of collecting the knowledge stones. So, you have like 10 minutes to collect the stones which are hidden inside these buildings, and then you have few protectors of the stones which will be attacking on you, and you need to fight with them and then collect all the stones. So now let's quickly see the gameplay of it, and then so this is the startup page, so it gives you the title and all the controls. So we use WASD keys to move. Shift, if you hold shift we can sprint, and C to crouch. So left click, the mouse left click is to shoot, L is to turn on the light, and Q is to collect the stones. So it's like survive from the enemies, explore the place, and collect the knowledge stones. And let's begin the journey of it. So you have like 10 minutes to collect them. So we'll go into it. So as we see, we are moving and the time is also running. We have like 15 protectors which are enemies for us right now, and we need to defend ourselves from them, or else we can need to. So we see that the enemy is attacking us. So I just click the E key to equip the gun. So you see I am holding a gun now, and then we are shooting it. And then now the enemy dies. So we go in. So now we are sprinting. So I'm holding shift to sprint. We are under attack again, but we'll quickly collect a stone. So you can see that the count increased to one. So we need to explore the place and then collect the stones. So we have one more stone here, but we have like bunch of enemies attacking, and you can see the health is decreased, and then the game is over. So now let's quickly dive into the technical content of the game. So we'll see how the blueprints are working. So it's an Unreal game built with Unreal Engine 5.4. So this is the first person character blueprint. So it's a general Unreal's first person character blueprint. I'm using it as the startup base and then starting development from there. So this is the camera input which comes with Unreal. So we have all the camera inputs here, how the camera follows the first person player and all. And then we have a level like UI added to the viewport. So this is my custom implementation. So as we saw the stones collected and the enemies UI with the health bar and all, so that comes from this UI. So it's added into first person. And then for movement we have walk. So on the input accesses, so we can move with WASD keys. And then I also added a function to sprint. So it's again an input action. So if we hold sprint and it checks if it's already sprinting, then it will increase the speed. So if it's not sprint, and if we release the shift key, it just reduces speed back. And then to crouch, so we have a crouch key. It's also again an input action. So if we hit the C key, we can crouch. So it checks a few variables, and then if person is not crouched, it will do that, or else it will play it back in the reverse. So I'm using a timeline to have a smooth animation. So this timeline and lerp, so this linear gives the smooth animation. And then we also have a prone movement. So if we hit Z, then the player prones down. So this block of blueprint code does the prone movement similar to crouch. Then we'll look at this. So this is the light. So it's a simple L key. So when we hit L key, we flash a point light in front of the player. So it's easier to find the stones in darker places. So when light hits on the stones, they'll reflect back. And this is for the background sound which we heard while in the game. So there is like a ancient mystical sound playing in the background. So this blueprint handles the job of that, and this is the sound which is spawned. And then we have the health system and the end screen implemented. So on any damage to the player, we come to this blueprint section. So it checks for the player health and it also gives like a small particle effect of blood flowing out of the player's head. So we can see that blood sprinkles in the gameplay. And then it also like creates a sound of hurt or an injury sound to the player. Then it checks for the health. Then it subtracts based on the damage. So typically it's set around 25. So it subtracts and then sets the health to the new value. And then it checks for the health. So if health is less than zero, so if the health is less than zero, then it's like we lost the game. And then it triggers the end screen UI. So this is the end part of this section. So it triggers this end screen UI, which gives an option of restart or exit. So that will add it to the viewport and makes the cursor enabled. And it pauses the game in background. And then we have equip gun section. So here, like when we hit a key, we play small animation to equip the gun, and it's an in flip-flop. So if we hit once, it will equip, and if we hit again, it will remove the gun from the player's hand. And this is the stone collection logic. So once we hit Q to collect the stone, it checks for the valid stone object. If it's like a valid stone object, so it's again a different blueprint class. We'll look at it. From so if it's a valid stone object, it will get the current collected stones count, and then it increases it by one and sets it to new value. So, and again, it plays a small sound effect of collecting the stones, and then it destroys the actor. So it just removes it from the game as we collect it. So it increments the point and then decreases it, like removes it from the game. And once we have stone collected equal to 5, so we have only 5 stones in our game. Our mission is to collect 5 stones. So once we have that done, then we just display mission accomplished UI. So it's like we won the game or we just accomplished the mission and we can move forward for the next mission. So again, it enables the cursor to give options for the player to move on or restart or quit the game. And then we have this shoot logic here. So this shoot logic comes with the mouse button. So when we hit left key on the mouse, the it fires like the gun. If the gun is equipped, then it fires using a line trace. So when that line trace hits the enemy, then the enemy's health is reduced. So this is a part of it, and it just plays a pistol shoot anim sound with a small little animation of shooting the pistol. So which we have it here. We have the sound here. And then it's a line trace. So on actor hit, we are casting it to the BR attacker and then applying damage to it. So we are applying a base damage of 10. So based on that damage, the BR character is affected. So this is pretty much it on the main first person blueprint. We'll move to the next blueprint. So now we'll move to the BR attacker. So these are like attackers on the player and protectors of the stone. So it starts on every event tick. We set the health bar. So this is like displaying the health bar on the player, which you can also see on the viewport. So if you look at the viewport, instead of having a standard static health UI for the enemies, as we have multiple enemies spawned in the game, we are just displaying the health on the top of the enemy's head. So once we shoot, this gets decreased and we can know how much it's remaining, and we can like accordingly plan and play the game. So this sets the percentage and then it gets the health. So it's an integer, then it divides it with to get a percentage and then it sets it. So this is the location where it should be. So it gets the location of the camera and then it sets it up. So it's like clean and smooth while playing the game. So this is on spawn. So we have this sense survivor, we can just look at the viewport. So this is the sensing range of the enemy. So whenever our player character enters within the range of this guy, it just starts following the player. So that logic is implemented here. So on spawn, it's like scene pawn. Whenever we it gets into the range, it sets the survivor visibility as true, which is a Boolean variable, and then it starts following. So it and it will do it one, and then also it plays a sound. So once it starts following, it keeps following the player. So once it is called, so this function is eventually called. So once it starts following, it sets the survivor, and it also can attack once it sees. So this is the AI move logic where it follows the player character. So this is our target, and our pawn is the bear attacker. And then on success, so once it reaches the player, so it's in contact with the collider mesh of the player, then it can apply the damage. So here also we are applying the base damage of 10. So this will apply base damage of 10 to the player. And our damage actor is the player character, which is the survivor. So once it's in the range, we can see that the health of the player gets decreased in the gameplay. And then it also plays like small animation of attacking there. It's like a loop. It just plays like these two are like left and right hand movement animations. It's like bear attacking. And then once it's done, it can again set can attack. So once it gets into the range, the can attack is set false and it attacks and then it again sets back. This is just have a smooth animation. And then this is the damage taken by the bear attacker. So this is triggered whenever this apply damage is called from the first person character. So this comes in here and it shoots. So whenever we shoot, we get the current health of the bear attacker and then we subtract it by the damage applied and then we set the value. And these are like two animations again. So these play like a death and a hit reaction animation, which we can see in the in the while we are playing the game. So death is like whenever the health is zero, we'll play the death animation and we'll just destroy the characters from the game. So it's like one enemy down. So if it's not zero, then we will sampling a little animation of moving forward with a hit attack. So it moves like something shotted. So this gives like feel of playing the game. So like this part is when the health is zero. So once it is zero, then we'll come here and then we'll destroy the character. And then so this is to set the count. So we'll decrease the count of number of enemies in the game scene. Now we'll move to the knowledge stone blueprint. So this is a small knowledge stone blueprint. So this is to collect the stone. So whenever there's an overlap with the stone, so if we go to the viewer, we can see that it's in a collider mesh. So whenever the player character comes and collides, so it comes into the colliding zone of this player. We cast it to the first person character. So this variable is in first person character, and then we'll increment the current stone count and then we'll destroy it. So this current stone is again used in the first person player character. So this stone collection system gets that variable. Yeah, so these are the major systems in the game. And now we'll look at the UIs briefly. So I have couple of UIs here. So first we'll look at the level UI. So if we go to design, so this is always appeared when we are playing the game. So it shows a timer in the counter which starts at 10 and it's a countdown timer which goes to 0. And once if it's 0, then it's again we fail the mission and we need to restart or exit the game. And here are like two indications. So these are the count of beers, number of beers alive. Initially, it will be 15, which is of max, and as we go on killing the bears, this will come down. And these are like stones collected. Initially, it's 0. As we collect the stones, they get incremented. And this is the health of the player. it's a bar. So as the player gets attacked and the health reduces, it will go down. We'll quickly look at the logic. So this starts the timer. So on every event take, it will just set some variables and then start the timer. So once the timer is start, the default value is set to 10. So from 10, so the default value is 10, like 600 seconds, which is 10 minutes. It starts counting down and then so this is the counting logic, and then it converts it into string, and then it displays on the string which we just saw. And here we are comparing it to 0. Once it reaches 0, then we'll once generate the end screen UI, which is like end of game. We'll look at the end screen UI just in a minute. And then we are again pausing the game and we are releasing the mouse for the player to choose the options. So this is the end screen UI. We'll look at the design. So this gives like a game over information, then options to restart or exit. So these are two buttons. These two buttons are then again connected to on-clicked functions. So let's have a look at that in the graphs. So we have like event graph here. So on clicking reset button will play I'm playing just click sound, and then if it's restart, then we'll reopen the level again. So if it's exit button, then we are just quitting the game. So it's a simple user interface to restart or exit the game when we lose it, when we lose the level. And this level UI is a simple user interface for the player to see the basic things needed for the game. And then we have the startup screen. So the startup screen gives the title, the controls. Like if it's a new player, he needs these are like custom buttons which I map to my functionalities based on my preferences. So it gives this UI with like small graphic behind it. So again, I generated these images with Gemini Nano Banana, and then we have a button here. So once we click the button, we'll enter the game and the timer starts down. This is like small info. And then we have little graphs here. So on click, so whenever click it, so we are removing it from parent and then setting it into game mode instead of UI mode, and then we are playing a click sound. So this is a click sound common throughout the game. And then we are getting the player and we are setting the game started, so that this game started is reflected back in the level UI. So it checks for the game started. So once the game is started, it starts the timer. So you can see here it's checking for the game started here. So once it's set, then it starts the timer counting down. And then we have a mission accomplished UI. So this is again this basic information. So when we collect all the knowledge successfully, it shows up a mission success screen with play and exit buttons. And for this game, I have like small animation. So this animation is for beer. So it blends the walk and run animation. So if we look at it, so this is the walk and run beer animation. You can see it slowly walks as the speed increases, it runs. So this is what we can see in the game. So I used a Mixamo animation. So this bear is from the Unity App Store. So I got it because the skeletal mesh is rigged and I can like tune and play with the animations as I wanted. And this also suits my purpose. So then I have these animations blended. So you can see it also roars. So and in Bear Attacker we also have this sound for roar. So we have this weird dead sound here. So it roars, it makes a different kind of sound. And when we see the player, it also makes a bear start sound. It's a different kind of roar. It's attacking roar and it's a death roar of the bear. So initially I thought of working on like 5 levels, but due to the time constraint and the learning process, I am very new to Unreal. It took a lot of time to learn, so I'm sticking to instead of having like a very basic 5 or 3 levels, I'm sticking to 1 level and then improving it. to make all the graphics and all the animations correct. So have this one world built with different assets, so and have all these materials built by myself. So I also worked on the Walker Unreal. So Walker Unreal gave me few suggestions in organizing the folders. So it also I didn't take few suggestions because I felt it's better this way as they have. So I imported the beer from the Fab store. So I wanted to keep the meshes and the other things separate. And so I kept it as a beer. So the Walker Unreal gave me suggestions to mix both of them together and have a single folder. But I prefer it to keep it separate so that I don't mess up with the existing beer skeletal mesh or any other things, which if I want I may reuse again. So instead I created an attacker AI and then I have my blueprints, the beer attacker blueprint and the animations here inside these folders. So these are my folder structures and have all these different textures which I created using Gemini's Nano Banana for my game. So there's like blood texture, earth, like different floor textures. And then I also have different materials which I created from my past knowledge, which I learned during the process of the assignment. So these are like gun and the surface, which this is the sand surface which we see, which I'm using. So these are from the Fab store. So I kept it as separate, and then I have my own gun material which I apply onto my gun. Then I have few animations here. So this is like a sprite sheet animation. It's like 12-step animation for the collectible knowledge stone. Then I have a stone blue animation blueprint. And then I have a Photoshop folder of it where I created the stones. And then, so after finishing up this level, I started working on the Walker script instead of working on the different game. So once I ran the Walker editor and the Walker file system, so I ran the Walker editor also. So I faced few issues over there, so I tried fixing them. So it's because of the Unreal 5.7 version, it refers the paths differently. So it was not able to, so this was the error. It was not able to load the asset path. So I fixed it like this. So after this, it started working and it generated a Walker md.json file. So I use these MD files and these JSON files to give it to the Claude Walker tool. So the Claude Unreal Walker tool gave few suggestions regarding the folder structures, which I just mentioned, and I also wanted to have it in my way. I used few of them, adjusted the folder structures to make the project clean, and then wanted to keep the original fabs as separated so that they won't mess up with my project. So this is my final project for the course. And if we start playing again, as we discussed, we have all these once we begin the journey. So we technically discussed how we have. So this is the ring. Once we enter into the ring, we see the players coming up. So this is the sound which we discussed, and then gun, and then the shoot sound to the players. So once we have it, we can also see the health bar on top of the player, on top of the enemy. So it's on the head. Yeah. So this is my final project for the course. Thank you.